Ooh, what's happening, man? Um, I don't even know if I'm gonna put this up on YouTube. I just, I don't know. I wanted to say some stuff to kind of expand on or elaborate what I was talking about earlier. Because I think I was being vague, and in a way, I'm trying to, like, not, I don't know, step on people's toes, or that's not even it. I'm trying to avoid confrontation, or more so, I'm trying to avoid coming off as or looking like the beings that I'm condemning, you know? But that's not the way. I mean, it partially is, but not in this sense. Because there are people, there are beings who are, who still have a chance at, you know, at the very least, avoiding being sucked into a cult. Not occult, a cult. Because, like, straight up, man, it couldn't have been more clear. I'm sitting up, like I said earlier, if something strikes me as, like, disagreeable, like a title of a video or a title of an article or the basis for a thesis, I'll go read that thesis. I'll go read that white paper. I'll go listen to that video. I'll go watch that lecture. Like, just because, at the very least, I think it's important to study your enemy. So let's say it does end up being some shit that I don't agree with. And it's not peaceful. It's some, some straight out militarized tactics. Some agent shit, some disinformation, some misinformation, miseducation. Like, if I come to find out that that's what that is, that's war shit. That's warfare. And so, while I would prefer to keep my, focus as far as the war or a war goes on the ones that are really, really doing the fucked up shit, watching this particular live stream on YouTube had, like, an effect. It integrated itself into the rewiring of my brain, because the past however long, that's what my brain's been doing. That's what my consciousness has been doing. It's been rewiring. It's been, progressing. And it's annoying trying to avoid these fucking buzzwords. I want to say upgrading. I mean, that's really the best way to describe it. And so within that, I guess I'll call it a previous iteration of myself, and by previous I mean maybe just yesterday. I don't know. I don't know if it's important to me to decipher when these changes happen. As long as they're happening, I'm happy. I'm content. But the previous iteration of me would have been like, nah, I don't want to. I'm not trying to say names. I try not to say names. I didn't set a couple names because I think at those points I figured those situations were kind of lost. And one of those names is included in this situation, you know? Two of them, actually. And then the other one, I've already butt heads with her, um, and they have the same type of response every time. And it's very slick, and it's very weird, and every time it happens, it kind of, you know, makes me have to like pivot because it feels like some form of weird training on their part, the way that they respond. And maybe I'm giving too much credit. Maybe that's just how they respond to getting called out, or, you know, a being not just letting them live and do their little hustle or whatever. But like I said, I think that shit's out. I think that time is out. Like, I'm not finna be making dedication channels where I make every single video about, niggas I disagree with, but at the same time, bro, like, this shit is this shit is real. For some people it don't feel real because they're doing that weird like disassociation, everything is happy, everything is love, everything is light shit. We gonna see how long that shit lasts for people. And that's not me being negative, it's just if you have eyes to see, you can already see shit's happening right now. So to act like it's not is very weird to me. And just on a realistic standpoint, I don't feel like there's one person that you could point at and be like, oh, they said that if you just focus on the positive, then that's all you'll get. There ain't one person who has a you know, proven situation of that. They might have money and resources that help them kind of like avoid it, but they're still aware of the shit that happens because they talk about it. So if you ignoring things you consider to be negative actually works, then how do you know about these negative things that are happening to everybody else? Why do you make videos and content trying to dupe people into thinking that you actually give a fuck that those things are happening to them? If you'll lie to them and tell them that ignoring it is the best way to handle it, but then again you tell them to do shadow work, which is a contradiction, then you obviously don't give a fuck. You know? And so anyway, I'm not trying to put this shit off. So Isis Wisdom popped up on my shit, and the title was, "Are 9 ether beings a recessive gene?" or some shit like that. And it caught me because even though I'll say for myself, I'm not really that concerned with the 9 ether shit. Like, I learned it. I do think it applies. I do think it is based on a real thing. I do think that there's a bunch of confusing, information out there on that. And I think that there's a lot of people that got a basis from, provable research, and then they just started channeling their own information into it. Whether it's them making up their own shit and saying they got it from within, or literally channeling and saying that they got it from the ancestors or an alien or source or whoever they say they channel from. It's not something that I reject. I'm just very careful and tedious about what I will accept. I'll listen to about anything, but whether I choose to give it credence, credit, or believe in it, that's another issue altogether. Because I think it's important to get as many aspects and perspectives as you can, but that don't mean you believe everything you hear by any means. And just because someone said some shit that really moved you at one point don't mean that you listen to everything that they say. Because I can't point to a specific thing or situation, but obviously Isis Wisdom said some shit at some point that I was like, oh yeah, 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 I'm feeling that, you know? Even now, she'll say some shit that I'm like, yep, yep. But the trick is that most of what she and people similar to her say doesn't come from her. It comes from other resources. Old books that most of y'all ain't gonna read. Old lectures from teachers that most of y'all maybe watched one or two lectures from, but they got dozens, hundreds of lectures that y'all ain't gonna listen to. Movies, TV shows, and not to say that those don't have good information in them, because I've talked about that before. That's how they do soft disclosures through that shit all the time. But the main point, and I've said this recently, is that none of us know shit for real unless we actually experience it. So anything that gets spoken on that has to do with different dimensions and densities and astral realms and all this shit, usually there's a better explanation than what that person is going to tell you, or they're just straight making the shit up to sound good. And it's just like any other thing. You can get really good at that and make that shit sound sweet. You can make it sound real, especially if you draw on shit that you know other people have talked about before. Whether you support those details and those things they spoke on, or you oppose it. Either way, you're using information that is um, recognizable to the audience. And people that are like self-taught or someone has taught them, like agents get trained on how to do shit like this. Um, you can get really good at it. And there are more than a couple examples of this. I talked about Charles Manson recently. That's a big one, you know. The whole hippie movement was created by a government agency. Whole thing created by a government agency. In fact, a lot of movements were created or perpetuated even. Maybe it was created by someone, earnestly, but then the agency gonna get their hands in there one way or another, whether it's by killing people, blackmailing people, sticking their own people in there to come in and take shit over, or by giving resources to that movement and somehow slowly subverting it to their favor. Like, that shit happens more times than not. And so, I'm the type of person that I think my brain just kind of likes figuring shit out. So I see shit like that, and in my head, I'm trying to figure out, like, oh, is this some agency shit, or is this just some, like, I need money type shit, or is it a mixture of the two, or is it something else altogether? But that's not really that important most of the time. That's just my brain doing that. The important thing is that you can tell that they're doing something, because there are plenty of people out here trying to put information out, put their perspective out, their spin on things, how they view this experience and what it means and what it encompasses. But it's like discernment. I can tell for myself, I can tell the ones that are earnest about it. Like Even if we bumped heads once or twice, that's just gonna happen. Because sometimes that's the only way to get to your truth. Even if you don't end up in agreement, at least you talk that shit out. Sargon the Great. I fuck with that nigga, bruh. Um, and we did kind of like not bump. I don't know if we bumped heads. I think we maybe did bump heads once or twice. But we kept that shit moving. That nigga's doing stuff. You know, he ain't got he ain't got time to be worried about us bumping heads. And the same thing for me. He's been doing it longer than me, so he's farther along. So he's got even less time, or maybe not. Actually, I don't know, because there's no way to really like figure that out. Um, does he have young kids like I do right now? There's no way to figure that out. But either way, we didn't bump heads, but regardless to that, that's my fucking brother. I like what he's doing. I like how he's doing it. He ain't trying to like us versus them, other, beings in our family. And I don't get no cult vibes off him. You know, you can talk about the opposition without making it sound like a cult, or without making it sound like if you don't agree with me, then nigga, you on the other side type shit. That's a red flag, bruh. That's a red flag. Or even more so, and this is one of the things I noticed about that ISIS Wisdom live stream. When you start clarifying shit by saying not everybody is ready to get downloads like this, or not everybody can get information like this, or just anything that makes it sound like if you don't know of or agree with the things I'm about to say or the things that I'm saying, then that just means you're not ready for it, or that just means that you're still on your journey. That shit is all manipulation. That's manipulation. Because then you gonna turn around and say you gotta look within, and everybody's reality is based on their own experience and all that. That's a contradiction. You can't say one of those things and then say the other and have them exist in the same reality. It don't make sense. They directly contradict each other. What you can say is, hey, this bit of information that I'm finna say, I can show you documentation of it, or it's not a fringe theory. There's, many documented cases of people having the same experience of it, anything like that, and you at least give yourself some more credibility. But to just assert a bunch of shit that you have compiled from multiple channelers, or some books that may or may not have been debunked by other sources, which doesn't mean that it's not true, but it definitely don't help, then you're essentially creating your own narrative and then telling everybody who questions it that they're just not on your level, or they're just not ready for the truth. And that's textbook cult leader shit. If they don't go along with what you say, then belittle them. Get your true followers, your devout followers, to get at them so that you don't even have to respond. And as I'm watching this live stream, I'm seeing this shit happen in the chat. I'm not saying nothing. I think I might have said one thing that wasn't like, hey, answer me, or hey, pay attention to me. But I'm seeing other people in the chat like, when y'all gonna show proof? When you gonna say where you getting this from? Not only are they ignoring it, there were 3 people on the stream. It was Isis Wisdom, her son, and some other nigga that talked the most. And none of them were given any kind of like foundation for the information that they were spouting out. And most of the people that are in these chats and in these live streams, they really just want to belong to something, or they're desperate for something to make sense of the experience that they're having because they're going through it, or they want to be a part of the next wave, or they want to be the next Isis Wisdom, or whatever her son's name is. Regardless to what it is, there were a few people in there repeatedly, like respectfully too, like, hey, when you gonna show proof of all this shit you just coming out here saying? Where are you getting this from? I'm seeing them say this shit, multiple people, over and over again. Not once did they get addressed. And then I saw when she did go in the chat, she would find somebody that she felt like she could pick on. Like, one of the things that they said, a girl in the chat was like, 9 is the highest number. Study numerology. And, my knowledge on numerology is definitely limited because I don't really give that much credence to it. There's definitely some synchronicity in there. There's definitely a lot of like mysticism and spell work, because in the Bible, I've seen breakdowns of people talking about numerology being used, and some other texts, and a lot of the events that get planned, in society and publicly and shit. A lot of it does have a lot to do with numerology and numbers, but that's because that's beings doing that. It's not because it just happens that way. It's because it's beings doing it. So that's not, to me, evidence of numerology itself being exactly credible. But I will say that the concept of the number 9 being the highest actual number does make sense to me. And reduction in gematria does, all supreme mathematics, it does make sense to me, And so she picks this girl's comment out instead of answering the many people saying, when you gonna show some proof? And she says, well, just so you know, there's 999 dimensions. And then she goes, and I'm not here to debate or to make this girl feel bad about herself. She's just speaking from a place of not knowing. And we all didn't know at some point, and we all thought things at some point. So she's taking this girl's comment, who has more backing and more documentation for her statement than the people on this live stream who are asserting all this shit and don't have, much backing at all. They're not providing any, for damn sure. And trying to belittle her publicly to keep other people from, kind of going against the grain and saying, hey, I don't know if I believe this. These are textbook, like, it's so weird how seamless they do it. It's like there's a cult leader trainer somewhere or some shit, which, I know there's lots of people calling each other agents and shit, but I don't call people that unless they display shit and embody shit that really does come off like some federal or some intelligence agency analyst training. And there's a few people that are coming off like that right now. And what our circles and our communities are debating, speaking about, constructing, it's important. And those agencies and those beings know that it's important. So the argument of why would they give a fuck about getting in our groups and causing, infighting and confusion and so on and so forth. Why would they care about doing that? Because the shit's important. We are special. We are special. And the fact that our groups, our communities are aware of that and starting to converse about it and trying to figure it out with each other, they don't like that. So of course they finna get in there and try to stir some shit up. and make it weird, you know? Um, but anyway, like I'm watching this live stream and I'm just listening to them like spout all this shit off that I either recognize from old books or old lectures, old theories, mixed in with some new shit that I can only imagine they didn't come up with on their own together, probably. Um, and I'm just kind of like shaking my head, like I bet a lot of these niggas just gonna eat this shit up because they really don't care what the so-called truth is. They just want to be involved, and so they study the shit that these people say so that they can spew it off to other people and sound smart or sound deep. And, still watching the people that are like, hey, you gonna show your work? You gonna show your proof? Do you have explanations for where all this is coming from? And then finally, not her son, the other nigga. I don't remember what his name was. I really don't give a fuck. He starts. Actually, no, it was both of them. They both start making references to nine, the Council of Nine, or the Nine Gods. If you've heard of them, they keep saying that. And then she like keeps stepping in, saying little things too, and I'm like, oh fuck, that's what this whole live stream is about. To give you some background on what I mean by that, I noticed like yesterday that another platform scheduled a video, and the video was basically like talking about damn, what was it called? It said, let's go master for master, basically saying let's put our master up against your master, which is already weird. Just that is already weird, right? But I think it's basically like saying that there's like a woke agenda, or like pretty much talking about, and there definitely is, but nigga, you doing that too. You're doing it too. The fact that you feel the need to like try to get people to not follow these people, but so they can follow you, that's weird. Like, if you were trying to call them out on being cultish and just leaving it at that, that's one thing. But you're trying to corral them to you. I've heard it. I've heard you do it. And like I said, I'm going to stop being so vague with some of this shit. I done bumped heads with this dude too in some comments. Phase 1. Phase 1 came out talking about his dad. You know, I don't know whether that's his dad or not, but Dr. Malachi Z. York, who, you know, some of his stuff definitely resonated with me. But then I started to notice that there's some culty shit about, you know, the things that he was saying and doing. And the way Phase 1 came out, when I noticed him anyway, was right along with that. Like, he came at everybody crazy, talking about y'all got everything you say from my dad, and y'all don't give him his credit, and as far as I'm concerned, you got to see me because you're not talking about my dad, Malachi Z. York, and so on and so on. And I'm like, bruh. But then you preaching peace and you preaching peace and talking about how we're beings of peace and we're not the enemies of each other and all this old bullshit. You coming out talking about how you a Freemason, but then saying you're not a Freemason, and then a few months later, now you a Freemason again. That's why, I mean, I try not to go at niggas like this, but I said something to him in the comments. I was like, bro, you seem like an agent. I just said the shit straight out. I can't help it sometimes. And, you know, I said it and left it, and then I started seeing a bunch of people like, yep, yeah, I think so too. I think so too. But in the end, it don't keep other people from falling for that shit. And this was a few months ago, not just a couple. This was a few months ago. And I left that comment on a video where he was like trying to basically apologize. He was doing apologetics for Freemasonry and like trying to explain it like this is, the truth. Everybody thinks it's bad and this symbolism is bad, but this really means this. It don't matter what it means, nigga. It's the actions. It's the fruits of your actions as a group. You niggas do weird shit. It's not debatable. Y'all do weird shit, both within your meetings and in, society. Not to say that your organizations don't do some okay shit for some people, but then the other shit y'all do is way worse. And you'll tell people that you'll lie straight out. That hidden hand shit, you tell people that you do weird shit and keep secrets and subvert the truth and lie and all this shit. You don't hide that at all. And for me, that's evident in when I asked if you were a Mason and you said no. This is all in comments. I might try to go, I think I might have screenshotted that shit just to kind of like have some receipts. But you said no. You said I'm not a Freemason. Let some time go by, maybe 5-6 months, and this nigga talking about he a Mason. The fuck you on, bruh? What are you doing? What you doing, man? And like, you slowly have opened up into talking about Melchizedek, which Dr. York said that he was Melchizedek. I'm not sure if it was the first time he said something crazy where my ears perked up like, oh, this is not good. What I'm listening to is not good. Doesn't mean it's all bad, but there's definitely some not good shit in here. This nigga said he was Michael, said he was Melchizedek, and you speaking a bunch of languages and being knowledgeable, that doesn't change me from being able to tell, like, oh, this is some cult shit. Maybe for some people it'll pull the wool over their eyes, but that ain't finna happen with me. And so, fast forward to now, this nigga Phase 1 is telling people to buy green lights and put them in their house, and I'm not gonna pretend to completely know the science behind that. In fact, there probably is science behind that, because lights have frequency just like anything else. Light is frequency. Frequency is light. Sound. Terrence Howard just had a video go viral from a while ago. The video's from a while ago, but he talked about that, so-and-so is in the key of E and it shows as the color yellow. So it's not about the green light thing. It's about all of it coming together to seem like a cult. Like, these are very specific instructions that you're giving to people and making them feel like if they don't do it, that they're lost. That's religious behavior. You go back months ago in both Phase 1 and Young Elder were kind of on some different shit. More so Young Elder. I'm kind of surprised at that brother. But then again, not. Then again, I'm not. But y'all were both kind of on some different shit. And now you're using fear tactics, like you talking about what demons really are and what they really look like and what's in hell and all this shit. And like, that's overtly Christian. That's overtly Christian conceptualization. So for me, it's like, You didn't told people to you got to get out that Christianity, you got to get out this, you got to get out that, but then you start referencing Christian motifs. Like the contradicting is crazy, and for me, I see I see it happening, and in my mind, I'm like, oh, everybody's finna see that for what it is, and they don't. A while back, this nigga Elder was doing a live stream on the Luciferian Alliance or some shit. The Luciferian Alliance, basically, and I won't fault him for this because everybody and they mama acting like Lucifer and Satan are the same thing. Which, as soon as you say some shit like that, I know you don't know as much as you think you do. That's a clear indication. And it's not to say I used to think that, but now I don't because I study, because I read, and I don't just listen to people channel. I don't just watch people from the indigenous community channeling shit. I go read texts. I listen to lectures. I don't give a fuck what the person looks like. Go look at my posts. There's Jewish theologians in there. There's Neogenians in there. Gnostic, researchers. Like, I don't give a fuck who it is. If they got gnosis, if they got information for me, I'm on it. I don't even have to agree with all of it. Sometimes I'll be biting my teeth listening to them say some of the shit they say, like, bruh, you are dumb. But then they have some other information in there, some other gnosis in there that's good. It's worth hearing. But I just see a lot of beings, and not just indigenous beings, just beings in general, that are so stuck in their own perspective and the things that make them feel comfortable that when they talk to people that are outside of their circle, they sound dumb or crazy or, misled. And not just from, you know, a perspective, literally. Like, I listened to, there's a dude named Ishmael Perez, says he was a super soldier in an off-world program. Says his memories just started coming back like 7 months ago. He done wrote a book. He's got a podcast. He's doing all kinds of shit. Good for you, bruh. I can't say whether that shit is real or not, but I do know that you are channeling a lot of that, and you're referencing a lot of other people's experiences and other people's books, and just kind of like making a compilation of things that you come across within, waking up or whatever you want to call it. But he's respectable. Ishmael Perez is respectful. He don't start shit with nobody. He's not trying to necessarily push you into believing what he believes, but he's very steadfast in what he believes. If you ask him something, he'll answer it confidently because that's what he believes. And that's fine. I don't see a problem with that. But the chick that was kind of like interviewing him, you could tell it was her video, but he re-uploaded it recently. I guess it happened in 2022. She was like combative and trying to big boy him, basically. Like, nah, nigga, that's not true. This is actually what's true, which was hilarious to me. You're saying his channeled information or information that he's gotten from his studies and books, and it's all metaphysics. It's not provable. You're saying that his information is off, but your information is true. You have no more proof than he does. You're pointing at other people's information and research and saying that he's wrong because you done read some other shit. And then she was like, oh, I've been doing this for 17 years. That don't matter. You just got through saying time ain't real, which I agree with. But if time's not real and everything is happening simultaneously right now, the amount of time you've been doing this don't make a fuck. Which I agree that time is not a true concept, a real concept. It's how we make sense of the experience that we're having. That whole everything is happening right now thing, not one person has explained that in a way that makes sense to me. Not one. So if someone can explain that to me in a way that actually connects and makes sense, that would be tight. If you know how to explain that, please do. DM me, please. Um, so anyway, I watched the ISIS video. I realized that she's talking about young elder in phase one because she saw, or someone sent her, that thumbnail with her big smiling face in the thumbnail, because it's basically saying y'all niggas are woke grifters and we're not. And it's got her picture, young Pharaoh's picture, uh, uh, Umar Johnson's picture. Is that nigga's name, Umar? I'm not finna call you a doctor, bro. You ain't no damn doctor. Whatever. You know Umar. I think it's got like Brother Nature or Brother Polite, one of them brothers. It's got a few people, and they're basically saying all y'all niggas is fake, but we the real. So, in real time, as I'm watching this ISIS wisdom video, I realize, oh shit, these cults are starting to beef with each other. Literally, they're starting to beef over who should be followed. Is it them or is it us? And literally, I've heard young elders say, you either with us or against us. I think he said that to me. He said that to me. I forgot. I'm all over the place because this shit got me hot. So I'm in young elders live stream a few weeks ago. He's talking about the Luciferian alliance, basically saying that Satan, and talking about demons and going to hell and all this shit. And I'm innocently just trying to help him understand, like, you're putting this video out that's kind of making you, when other people start to study more and realize some new shit, they're gonna think back potentially and say to themselves, this nigga elder was talking about Lucifer is Satan. And they're gonna be like, oh well, that's not good. That nigga's confused. So, and I fuck with young elder for real. I really hope he gets out this cult shit, but I do. I fuck with that dude. He was one of the. He introduced me to Rod Hayes, and he's covered some really good, information. He's provided some good gnosis. So I'm in his chat, and I'm like, Lucifer is not Satan, is not the devil. Those are three different energies. And I say energies because if you really want to get into it, depending on perspective, Lucifer is it's a title. Lucifer is a title. So you can have, so is Satan, so is the devil. You can say that these are beings, but if you realize it, the devil and Satan have other names. They have other names because their most used names are not names, they're titles. There's a quote that I use sometimes to address certain demiurges and archons. As long as you and I both draw breath, we're devils to one another. That doesn't mean I'm calling myself the devil or them the devil. That means I'm saying we are adversaries. We are enemies to each other as long as we both draw breath. And so there are multiple beings that hold these titles. And this all goes into how much you study and how many perspectives you take in, because there's Satan, Shaitan, there's so much that you can find out that you really, you're not going to find a one true answer, but you will find what's not the answer. And to say that Lucifer is Satan, you can't really say that like that. You can say that in your perspective, Lucifer is a Satan, or Satan is a Lucifer, and that would be applicable. But the way that people are presenting these names in their presentations and in their work, it's really off. It's really off. And a lot of my stuff at this point is perspective. It's not so much presenting, my studies, or sometimes it is, but basically I'm saying, like, if you want more of an explanation on that concept that Lucifer is not Satan, Satan is not the devil, and so on and so on, um, Brother Yosef. Brother Yosef does a really good explanation of it. He said something. He doesn't give a fuck either. I'll say it like that. He don't give a fuck, just like I don't give a fuck. In that video, specifically, I can't remember what video it is, so you might just have to kind of find a way to search through his stuff. You could go to the transcripts. Go to the transcripts and look. I don't know. But he says straight out, this world needs more Luciferian energy. And it does. Because the beings that are doing the most right now are dumb. Y'all need some illumination. You need some energy. You need some knowledge, some gnosis. The loudest ones out here saying dumb shit, making up dumb shit, and just pushing real hard as if it's fact or true or, even intelligent. And most people are not really doing any research to make shit make sense, or to, edify or dismiss information. They just eat that shit up because they like the person, which is dangerous. That is specifically how you end up in a cult. You just like a person, so you just start accepting everything they say. And that should never happen. I shouldn't say a lot of the stuff that I say. Or actually I should. If I was trying to get as many followers or whatever as I wanted to get, or not even I wanted to get, or that would make me money, I guess I should say it like that. If I was trying to make as much money as possible, I should not say a lot of the stuff that I say. And I'm not a wealthy person by any standard. I tell people sometimes I'm Bobby Hemmett broke. You feel what I'm saying? And there's plenty of people that are way worse off. In fact, I'll say I'm not even bad off. But I'm for damn sure not Billy Carson. Carson? Right? Billy Carson? Well, hell, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not rich. I'm not wealthy. But I don't give a fuck about that. I'll say that as many times as I need to. I'm not talking to try to get money from you. Or from them. I'm not trying to... That's not my point. That's never been my goal, or, my frame of thought. So if money was my goal, if fiat abundance was my goal, then I would be editing myself a lot more. Anytime you hear me edit something when I talk, it's because I'm trying to avoid confrontation, or I'm trying to change up the way that I speak, or something like that. It ain't got nothing to do with appeasing no money. Ever. Don't give a fuck about that. But yeah, Brother Yosef's got a good kind of breakdown, and it's like a short one too. The video's not short, but the breakdown is very clear and concise. It's not scatterbrained like me sometimes. Those are three different energies. So I'm in this nigga's chat trying to tell him, like, bro, you kind of making not a fool of yourself, but yeah, you kind of making a fool of yourself by saying that Lucifer is Satan and Satan is the devil. You acting like this is one thing, and it's not one thing. Not even close. It's three completely different situations. Um, if you go listen to like Gnostic Informant or Aeon Byte Gnostic Radio, they break down the parts of the Bible that have been taken out. They talk about it all the time. Go to, I think it's Gnosticism. It's either Gnosticism.org or Gnostic.org. They have the Nag Hammadi and all kinds of texts that you can read for free. You can read that shit for free. And when you start to do these things, you'll start to see these people are talking out of their ass. These people are making shit up. They're making shit up, and people eat it the fuck up. Whether they're quoting from previous lecturers that were also making shit up, or just didn't have the information to fill in the little bit of information they did have, it really don't matter. You know, you can very easily go find the real information. And it's a lot of the time, it's not just one perspective. So I'm not telling you that you're going to go find the real answer, but what you will find is what the answer is not. And you'll also find that there are so many possible answers that the way that these beings talk to you is a red flag. The fact that they're trying to tell you that this is the one and only truth, but then they say it's about perspectives and so on and so on. They contradict themselves in front of you. That's a red flag. They tell you that if you don't believe them or if you don't agree with them, that you're just not ready for the real information. Red flag. It's us against them. You're either with us or against us. Red flag. These things are all contradictions. They don't make sense for what they pretend that they're preaching. They want your money. They keep telling you that they want your money. They want you to buy courses. They want you to come to their webinars. They want you to pay for their merch. And some of that shit is okay, but the way they're doing it is not. And you got to use discernment as to whether or not it feels right or okay to you. Does it feel like it's earnest, or does it feel like a grift, like they're grifters? Or does it feel like they're an agent? Because that's the other thing. I don't think I know Elder. I don't know. I can't say I know. I don't get the vibe that Young Elder is an agent. Phase 1 feels like a for show agent. Isis Wisdom also feels like an agent. She turned on Rashad Jamal in front of everybody and started talking shit about this nigga, bruh. Like, you're making moves in front of everybody. This shit is public. You can't get mad. You can't pretend I'm trying to come at you for personal reason. The only personal reason is because I see you fucking with my family. So if you want to take that as a personal reason, I guess it is personal. But it ain't about no damn money. I don't get booked for things, so it's not about that. It's about what I'm saying it's about. You know? And as much as my brain tells me, like, keep to yourself, don't worry about these other niggas, blah, 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 my heart don't let me do that. We got multiple brains, and one of them is in your heart chakra, so I'm going to listen to that too. I try to balance the shit out best I can. But it's just weird to watch cults and cult leaders start to bang on each other. They're banging on each other like they in some gangs, bro. It's actually kind of funny when you separate yourself from it, because I mean, I was really never in either one of their like collectives or groups or whatever. I'm not finna really do that with nobody. I might. It would just be different. They call themselves tribes and all kinds of shit, but then they talk about money a lot. Even the ones that I still like have some reverence and respect for, they still trying to sell you shit and get you to come to their. It's all about money, which is a contradiction of one of the pillars of what all y'all say you're about. Like, abundance is not money, it's not a fiat currency, it's not a possession. That's not what abundance is about. And you know that. That's what kind of makes me sick about it. Is the ones that pretend to be teachers and gurus and shit, you know it's not about fiat, but you like that shit. Just out here hustling people. It's gross. It's gross. You are gross for that. It's one thing if all your information was on the up and up and you really had services that you could show are, you know, real, or, you know, information and gnosis that you could show texts and all this is where I got all this from and blah blah blah. You don't have none of that. It's all just I've done the work, so you need to pay me. When this is it's an experience, it's a subjective thing a lot of the time. Sometimes it's definitely not. And those are the times where you show yourselves. Y'all are so in love with providing doctrine and like prophesying to people and making people feel like you know so much that you reveal yourselves. The more you talk, the more you reveal yourselves. If they would have shut the fuck up in that ISIS Wisdom live, I would have never known that the whole live was about coming at Young Elder in phase one. I would have never put two and two together. But then towards the end, start talking about the nine gods. Young Elder in phase one, they're starting a record label called Nine God ENT. Or Nine Gods ENT. I don't know which one it is. It's either plural or not. That's when it really snapped in. They kept saying nine gods. And then my head started moving, bro. My brain started moving. I'm like, oh, that's the fucking thumbnail. Her face was on the thumbnail. And she ain't slick. She got her son and this other nigga saying the things about the nine gods, but I know it's her. I know it's her. She probably sitting up there sending them shit in the chat like, oh, bring up the nine gods thing. It's so weird, man. It's it's so weird. I hope more people can see through that shit. I'm glad I saw some people in the chat like, when y'all gonna show some proof? Because that shit had me like sad a little bit. Because if most of the people in there and, you know, hanging around these circles will eat this shit up so easily, it's like I keep saying, I'm trying to figure out how many of us there are. And not to say that they can't get past it, but if you eating that shit up, you ain't us. That's all I can say. And you ain't again. I'm not saying that shit that they say. If you ain't with us, you against us. It's not like that. Because we don't have to be anything to each other at all, you know? But I can say, if you eating that shit up and you can't think to yourself and question the things that you're hearing, the bullshit that's being fed to you, that's not us. Because we don't move like that. We don't move like that. But yeah, man, that shit's crazy. I just had to say something. I don't know if I'm going to put this up on YouTube or not, but I probably will. Because I need content for the algo.